Moment of silence. Thank you. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I tried to speed us through the Pledge of Allegiance there a little bit. You may be seated. Please continue to enjoy your meal. We want to thank our monthly sponsors for their support, which we definitely need and appreciate. Our title sponsors, as always, St. Elizabeth Healthcare up in front here. Thank you, folks. Our luncheon sponsor today is the Corporex Companies. Our supporting sponsor is BNKY Growth Partnership. And our nonprofit spotlight sponsor is Family Nurturing Center. Our member anniversary sponsor is Mackey Advisors, and our growth report sponsor is DBL Law. Our in-kind sponsors are A&E Audio, Video, and Event Services and Crystalline O'Brien Photography. If you would, let's please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. I want to welcome our elected officials who are in the room today. We have Covington Mayor Ron Washington up here in the front near the center. Covington School Board Chair and School Board Member Tom Haggart and Kareem Simpson respectively over there. Shout out to them for a successful end result on the hiring of a new school superintendent, Courtney Flescu, who you will all be meeting very soon, probably early this summer. We're excited to have her on board here in the city. Also, I think we have Kenton County Fiscal Court member Beth Sewell in the room. Beth, are you here? I think I saw, there you are over there. And also Shelley Funky Frohmeyer, I think, is on her way, our state senator. She was headed here too, so we're appreciative of them. I also want to recognize our CBC board members present today, led by Board Chair Jackie Roberto and Foundation Chair and venue host Tony Milburn. Would all of our board members here today please stand and be recognized? And also let's give applause to our elected officials as well. So thank you, folks. A few announcements. We're weeks away from the CBC golf outing, May 7th at Twin Oaks, and all our foursomes are gone, all sold out as they usually are before that event. We do have some hole and tee sponsorships available. You can talk to Jennifer or myself after today if you'd like to be involved. We would appreciate that. We have our next new membership orientation next Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning. It will be virtual, but please let us know if you're coming. Join us for our special hard hat tour sponsored by our friends at Pella Windows. That'll be Thursday, April 30th at the Frank Duveneck House and Studio on Greenup. This is a little different. This is a very historic building that means a lot to our community, and so we have a lot of interest in this. We're going to be able to take groups of smaller groups through the house, and I know we've had a lot of interest in this, so if you do want to take part in this, please sign up as soon as you can so we can accommodate everybody. We also have an after-hours social at the Globe following this event. So again, please let us know which events you plan on attending and signing up for those. We had a sellout for our last Business Insights series at New Riff Distillery a few weeks ago. Our follow-up presentation will be May 13th at the 1NKY Center with the title Slow Down to Speed Up, The Power of Sales Discovery, and Al Lindemann and Kevin Lawson will be leading that discussion. That will be happening between 3 and 4. Then we'll have a social following 4 to 6 at Second Story on 6th Street. Now it's time for our nonprofit spotlight. Please welcome Jane Herms, Executive Director of the Family Nurturing Center. Let's hear it for Jane.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today and talk a little bit about Family Nurturing Center. For more than 45 years, Family Nurturing Center has been a resource to the Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati community, serving more than 10,000 people every year with free education, prevention, and treatment services. This is Child Abuse Prevention Month, so I'm especially happy to be the nonprofit spotlight during April. And child abuse prevention is certainly about calling awareness to the issue of abuse and neglect, but it's more than that. It's also a call to action. It's a way to say that we all have a role to play in ending the cycle of child abuse, and that hope and healing are possible. One of the things that we do during the month of April is Light Up Blue. It's a way to, again, call awareness to the issue of abuse and neglect. Child abuse thrives on a culture of silence. Perpetrators count on us being too uncomfortable to talk about abuse. And so when we light up blue, and you'll see it all throughout the tri-state, the Red Stadium, TQL, the Florence Water Tower, the Diocesan Curia, all kinds of businesses, individuals, and even homes are going to put blue light bulbs up, or blue streamers, or ways to be able to call attention and let kids and families know that they are not alone. Child abuse doesn't just happen in somebody else's family or somebody else's neighborhood. I want you to think for a minute, if you know somebody personally who's had a major health incident, a heart attack, a car accident, cancer, raise your hand if you know somebody personally that has been impacted by that. How did you find out? They probably told you. Or maybe you read it on Facebook or got a request for a prayer chain through your church. You probably know somebody who has been impacted by abuse as well, but you may not be aware because it's not something that we talk about. But there are 42 million adult survivors of child sexual abuse in our country, and Kentucky ranks more than twice the national average in the rate of abuse or neglect. And it impacts all of us, not just the kids and families that are directly impacted, but our community. We know that child abuse, if it is untreated, impacts income, education, and health. So it impacts your employees, your family, your friends, your neighbors. I'm excited that we are growing. You may have seen the announcement that we just got a $2.5 million allocation from the state. I think I saw Senator Funky Frohmeyer walk in, so yes. So thank you for your support. For the first time in our history, we've purchased a building. It's right off of Thomas More Parkway. And construction has started on that. And it's really about more than just adding space. It will double our space from 8,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet. But it's more than a pretty building. It's really about being able to serve more children and families. We have 85 kids on our waiting list right now that are waiting for counseling services. Those are kids who have already experienced abuse, neglect, severe complex trauma, and need specialized care. And our services are not just top-notch and specialized and high quality, they're also free. We don't charge insurance, we don't charge a copay, we don't take a medical card. We work really hard every year to raise those funds to make sure that being able to pay is never the barrier to be able to access great services. A shout out to our friends at St. Elizabeth who also contributed to our campaign, Kenton County Fiscal Court, we had Central Bank, and lots of other folks who have already helped us reach $8.5 million of our $12 million goal. So I would ask you to think about ways to get involved. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, but child abuse happens all year long, and the opportunity to get involved and make a difference happens all year long as well. At your tables, you'll see some things. First of all, a blue bracelet. So we ask that you wear it during April and spark that conversation and tell people about what you learned today. Whether you're talking to another adult or a coworker or a family member, or just having a conversation with a child about more than just stranger danger, those are all ways that we can work to prevent the cycle of child abuse. We have a magnet for your prom photo. The Prom for a Purpose is coming up on May 15th. We're expecting 600 people this year. It is a great time. I don't usually get to work into conversation that I was 1982 prom queen, but I do get to say it once a year now, which is fun. And I think we have some other prom royalty in the room as well that you might hear from. But you can support that event by sponsoring, by attending, helping with the silent auction basket, or spreading the word. Come and learn. Pat told me I had 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes is not enough to tell you about the issue of abuse, about the services that we provide, about the 10,000 people that we reach every year, and the even more that need our services. So come and learn, come take a tour of our current facility or our new building. We would love to tell you more about the services that we have that are a resource for you and your families and your community as well. Thanks so much.
Okay, so as Jane, first of all, I want to say that the work that Jane and her team does, it's the most horrible, difficult conversations to have about some of the most private things that could happen in your life. And they do such an effective job dealing with that. Okay, so that's the serious part. So as Jane mentioned, Prom with the Purpose has a prom court. Oh boy. So I was not the prom king, amazement, but that's a picture of me, 1979, class, Jewett-Scio High School. I was on the prom court, but I did not win. So in the risk of self-humiliation, I would love for you to support my cause. I'm in 4th place right now, so I need to move up. So, but seriously, I won't belabor this. I'm just going to keep the slide up for the next 5 minutes until you contribute to the QR code. But thank you all, and Jane, thank you. Let's give Jane and her team a crowd for the great work that they do. Okay, enough of that. You've just had lunch. So let's meet some of our newest CBC member companies and their representatives. So if you would please stand while I say your name and remain standing. We're not only going to recognize our newest members, but some that have been members for quite a while. So first of all, we have Aaron Slaughter. Assistance on Call provides, where are you, Aaron? Oh, you're over there. Okay, I saw you over there before. So Assistance on Call provides admin assistance for as little as 10 hours a week to give you back time for profitable activity. As Aaron says, if you want to grow, you have to let go. Also, Chris and Diane Van Meter and Tanner Knack of Gravity Technology Solutions. They design and install integrated AV security, sound, and IT systems to keep facilities secure, efficient, and running without interruptions. Keep standing, folks. I want people to know who you are. Get back up there, Aaron. Paul Mayer Daily Innovations, building performance accountability systems for frontline employees. And now, thanks to our sponsor, Mackey Advisors, we want to recognize our member companies which are marking notable anniversaries as members. We have Shad Sledo of Maris LCC for 10 years. Stand up, Chad. You're going to burn oh, yeah, he is. You burn calories standing up, so yeah. Your twin brother, Mayor Washington, over there, we know. So, also Shane Noem, Roebling Solutions, 5 years. Catherine Lentz and Ella Fry of ECDI, 5 years. There you are. And I think that's it. Okay, so let's welcome all of our representatives and member organizations, new and old alike. Thank you for your support. Now it's time for our growth report, brought to you by DBL Law. And here I get to say this for the first time because you haven't been here for a few months, Patrick. The managing partner of DBL Law, Patrick Hughes, to lead us into this segment. Congratulations. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Yet another exciting update about economic development activity in the city of Covington. It's really an honor for DBL Law to be able to sponsor this portion because every time I come here and do this intro, it's yet more exciting activity. So Tom West and his development team, which it looks like everyone's here today, are doing an amazing job. So we have the pleasure to sponsor it and introduce Tom West. But before Tom comes up, please direct your attention to the screens for a short video about all of the exciting activity. Thank you.
What you just saw is my report. No, that is all due to, I think, some tremendous leadership in this community and an amazing team. And yes, most of them are here today. As I get ready to retire in July, I'm transitioning a lot of my responsibilities. And one of those is this monthly CBC growth report. So starting next month, my very capable assistant director over there, John Sadowski, wave to everybody, John, there you go. We'll start presenting that report for you each month. But today I get the mic one last time, and they're giving me a little more time for my farewell tour. Joe Claire asked me to talk about career highlights and the foundation we built for economic development here in the Cov. But before I get into that, there is something I want to say, and I know it's going to sound cliche, but from my heart, I want you all to know that it has been an absolute honor to serve the people of Covington in what for me has been a dream job. The elected officials, city staff, and partners I've had the privilege to work with over the years is something I will always look back on with appreciation. Of course, there have also been those days when I earned every one of these gray hairs, but let's not dwell on a certain company's work from home policy. When Joe asked me to talk about career highlights, he probably expected me to talk about the 7,800 jobs that we've attracted, or the more than $500 million of capital investment that has come to Covington. Or maybe he thought I would focus on certain projects like DBL Law coming home to Covington, or CCR, or the Hotel Covington expansion. But you all already know about those and the other big projects. In fact, you've probably read about most of them in Mr. Demaropoulos' paper over here. Am I showing my age by saying paper? Because you do still do it in paper. But what doesn't usually make the media, and honestly has meant the most to me over the last 8+ years, has been coming to work every day with the philosophy that economic development is not about projects or incentives. It's about building wealth in the community. Let me repeat that. Economic development is about building wealth in the community, and that means the entire community, and not just a select few. I'll give you a few examples of what I mean. I was thrilled when we were able to get a state-of-the-art Building Trades campus to open in Latonia. This provides access to workforce training for in-demand jobs in close proximity to young people and adults who could learn a new skill and improve their family's wealth, their family's incomes. I'm also very proud that we expanded and improved our small business program every year. To date, we've assisted nearly 200 small companies by allowing them to focus on building their business in that first critical year instead of just trying to make rent. And as we found out earlier this year, around 90% of those that we have worked with are still in operation and thriving today. I'm very proud that we institute a policy of always underwriting every incentive request the city gets so that we could negotiate the best possible deal for our citizens and to give our elected officials the data that they need to make informed decisions and to understand the return on investment for the city. Okay, I've got a question for you all, so there's a little participation here. Have you ever heard of a city getting love letters for its zoning code? Neither had I. But we've received them. So when we threw out our old code in 2020, what we did was we adopted a new one, and we don't even use the word zoning, we use neighborhood development code. And what we did was we cut out red tape, we eliminated needless bureaucracy, we got very innovative by combining our zoning board with our urban design review board. In short, what we did was we made it a lot easier for residents and businesses to do it right the first time. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention our partnership with Covington Schools. That relationship has really come a long way with Tom Haggard at the helm of the school board. We have intentionally been working together to establish trust and collaborate openly and productively on innovations and initiatives of mutual interest. So recently, a national development expert said that Covington is a city, and I quote, who punches above its weight class. And others seem to agree. Covington's picked up quite a few honors and awards in the past several years. We went from worst to first after HUD named us one of the most blighted cities in America back in the 80s, only to have Money Magazine name us one of the best places to live less than a generation later. We've won international awards for economic development innovation, planning awards for our zoning code. HGTV says we have one of the most charming downtowns anywhere. 4 years in a row, we've scored a perfect 100 on the Municipal Equality Index. Even Food and Wine magazine has recognized our food scene. And yes, they mentioned Carmelo's and Otto's, but they also recognize that the Anchor Grill is an integral part of that food scene. Now, these awards are not about ego, and I'm not trying to stand up here and take credit for them. We won those awards together. As a community, we won those awards together because it takes the entire community to pull off such a transformation. It takes elected officials, cops, firefighters, a city government filled with passionate and dedicated staff. It takes partner organizations, engaged residents, innovative business leaders, and of course, developers with vision. So all these accolades are not at all about ego. They are validation for the hard work and sweat equity of everyone who's had a hand in making this the coolest city anywhere. Now, I told you Joe what Joe was asking me to do. He also asked me to talk about the foundation for the future. And I think our foundation is very solid so long as we don't lose our cool. I was going to mention this in my list of things I'm most proud of, but I saved it for now because to me, it really kind of serves as a blueprint for the city's future if we let it. I'm referring to the manifesto that Austin Dunbar and his genius crew over at Durham Brands wrote for the city back in 2021. It holds true today, and if referenced properly, could hold true decades from now as well. If you haven't read it, it's on the back of our 2025 impact report. So you can just scan that QR code on the table tent and scroll to the very bottom of that document. It's a short read, but it might make chills go up your spine. That's what happened to me the first time Austin read it. What it does is it talks about our community's value of historic preservation, innovation, entrepreneurship, diversity, local business over chains, inclusion. And it wraps up with a statement that we are unbridled, uncommon, unmistakably confident, and we are unapologetic about all of it. Yes, we need to build more apartment buildings, office buildings, and commercial spaces in the Cov. Yes, we need more jobs, more people, and more investment. And all of that stuff happens everywhere. The question for our future is not if, but how it will happen here. Will we get distracted by shiny objects or succumb to the out-of-control greed that seems to be sweeping our nation and the world? Or will we treasure the uniqueness, quirkiness, and value of our people, all people? Some of you have heard me refer to the Cov as Spicy Mayberry. Well, that's because this is the kind of small town where you can run into friends and neighbors on the sidewalk while you're walking to a drag brunch. There are some big things on the horizon for the Cov. The continued development of Covington's newest neighborhood at CCR, redevelopment of the former C&O Roundhouse and engine repair facility, additional workforce housing opportunities under the Mayor's Housing Initiative, and potentially a new permanent home for the farmers market. Things may not turn out exactly like we planned them, because that rarely happens in life, but the Cov has an amazing foundation to continue to punch above its weight class. So my parting words to all y'all, yeah, I'm from the South, that's plural, is to continue to help each other meet common goals. Stay engaged, keep the jobs and investment coming, keep the momentum going, but for God's sake, Covington, don't lose your cool. Thank you.
Tom. Tom is part of our panel, so he's going to take his seat here while we head on to the next. See, Tom, it's not just embarrassing pictures of you from the past, it's embarrassing pictures of me from the past, too. So let's give Tom another round of applause. Appreciate all he has done. Okay, now onto our program. I want to introduce Bert Heeman. He's the Director of Sales and Leasing for Corporex Companies, our luncheon sponsor. He's going to introduce our panel moderator today, and as Bert makes his way forward, please draw your attention to the video screen.
Thanks, Pat. Corporex is proud to be a sponsor and an active member of the Covington Business Council. With growth being the theme and over 61 years in business, we have grown from developing, managing, and owning our own real estate to now offering those services to others. We, too, are proud to be part of the continued growth of not only Covington, but the region. And there's no one better to help guide today's conversation on Covington's role in regional economic development than our moderator. Tom Demaropoulos serves as editor of the Business Courier, leading the award-winning team in both print and online. Prior to becoming editor, he spent more than a decade covering commercial real estate for the Courier. He is a University of Cincinnati graduate and has a master's in journalism from Ball State University. Before joining the Courier in 2010, he was a reporter with the Dayton Business Journal, a sister outlet, and he's a 3-time American City Business Journal's Eagle Award winner. So without further ado, my friend and the only man who can get me to wear a tie, Tom Demeropoulos.
Thank you, Bert, and thank you to the Covington Business Council for having me here this afternoon to moderate our discussion. So we already have our first panelist up here with Tom West, so I will go right into introducing our second panelist. Joining Tom will be Kimberly Rossetti. Kimberly is Vice President of Economic Development for BNKY Growth Partnership, the economic development company that works to attract, retain, and grow businesses in the economy in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell counties. Since 2020, Kimberly and her team have won 130 projects representing more than $2 billion in capital investment and more than 10,500 new jobs. Give her a banner, yeah? And last but not least, our third panelist this afternoon is Kim Lauterbach. As president and CEO of Ready Cincinnati since 2018 and a founding leader of the organization, Kim drives economic strategies to boost the 3-state, 15-county region's global competitiveness. After 5 years of VP of Business Development, she led all aspects of projects for companies locating or expanding in the region. And in May of 2024, she was recognized as a YWCA Career Woman of Achievement. Let's give our panelists a big round of applause. Excellent. So I'd like to start with a question, kind of looking at, the city of Covington, and how does being in Covington specifically help businesses serve customers across northern Kentucky and greater Cincinnati? And Tom, maybe if you want to start off with that question.
Is this on? Okay. Thanks, Tom. Well, I already mentioned it's the coolest city anywhere, right? But I think some very specific things that businesses find useful, and one that folks are going to find very useful over the next several years as the Clayway or the Brent Spence Bridge project gets underway. We have 3 routes to the airport that do not require you to get on I-75. And I'm not going to tell them here in case there's somebody's secret route. I don't want to give that away. Waze will help you find them. I think that's one of the things that. The other thing about Covington is we're able to offer kind of that small town charm, the kind of Mayberry atmosphere with the big city amenities, the pro sports, the arts and culture. They're all just a short bridge away from us. But we offer a vibe and an environment that's walkable, safe, very welcoming, and that makes it easier to attract talent, and talent makes it easier to attract jobs.
Kimberly?
Well, is this on? Oh, okay. It's hard to hear from up here. I got it. So yeah, there are a lot of different things. I mean, one, just the location that we are in, northern Kentucky, Cincinnati region. I mean, that is obviously a huge asset for our region and for the city of Covington. And so I want to know some of the routes so when I'm leaving the office, I can get to the airport in a quicker fashion. But I think also Covington has a really sophisticated level of government that gives our companies the ease of mind when they're working on new expansions and on projects. So to know that they don't have to deal with a lot of red tape and a lot of hurdles to get to what they need to do so that they can get to doing their job faster in a more efficient manner has been a huge plus for us when we're working with companies, especially the international companies who, like Marfo FMA that we just announced, they have a lot of questions about, zoning and workforce and is the building, what type of building inspection, and all of that was seamless and very easy for them to navigate for their first U.S. location.
I don't know that I have much more to add after all of that. So, no, I mean, I think absolutely, we represent over 300 different jurisdictions when you think about the Cincinnati MSA, and having, an asset and a gem like Covington is one of our abilities. We're selling internationally. Of course, we're talking about Cincinnati and the region, but you're diving down into those livable neighborhoods, the amenities, the arts and culture, the things that drive our people here. So I don't think there's much more other to say than it's really fantastic to have this type of option when we're selling in an international standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Tom, you mentioned in particular the Brent Spence Bridge. So let's talk about kind of infrastructure a little bit. Which infrastructures matters most to the regional growth strategy, whether it's the bridge or the airport or river crossings, broadband, utilities, and how do potential political boundaries, how could that create friction when you're talking about infrastructure needs?
Yeah, I mean, yes, all. I mean, I think it's the answer everyone hates to hear. It depends on the need of the client and the company as to which piece of infrastructure might be the most critical at any given time. I mean, certainly having CVG in our backyard, the passenger component, but really the cargo component to that is a huge benefit to us. When you think about the river, people always talk about it as a divide. For my entire career at Ready, talked about it as our main street. We've got thriving downtowns on both sides of our main street, so I don't see it as a divide, but we forget sometimes the importance of the cargo movement that comes through the river. If you look at the intersection of cargo, rail, and the water piece of it, we are the largest inland port by gross tonnage, which is a huge advantage. So I think the infrastructure pieces all come together. The challenge from, where in the seat I sit in is from a political standpoint is the division between two states and multiple jurisdictions, right? We talk about how I'd love to see an integrated economic development zone that allows us to incentivize companies regardless of whether they sit on Ohio or Kentucky and working together as a true region.
Tom or Kimberly, anything to add on that?
No, I think from the infrastructure piece, with the Brent Spence Bridge, just seeing how closely the two state governors work together and were able to bring that to fruition was huge. So I do think there's a lot more cooperation than people see. Even if you look at some of the passenger flights that we've been able to expand or locate at CVG, that's been from both states' perspective. It wasn't just CVG that was working on it or BNKY or Ready, but each of the state governments also put in participation to help attract those. So I do think there's a lot more cooperation that just happens behind the scenes, and then you see the announcement and think that's great, but there definitely is a willingness on each side to work closely together.
The one thing I'll add, and I'll talk about it at a little bit different scale, and bring it down a little bit because you guys have covered the Brent Spence Bridge. Well, one of the reasons that is so important is because we are so dependent on the automobile here. We don't have the density in Covington or in the region really to support an efficient mass transit system, so that makes us dependent on the car. That has impacts in terms of the cost of parking, roadways that have to constantly be repaved. And that takes a toll on our infrastructure that's under the roadways. So all that kind of adds up. So more of a focus on walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods, bikeability, obviously getting ready for autonomous vehicles, right? They're already in other cities. So those are things that I think we should be looking at for the future of infrastructure.
Yeah. Kimberly, you mentioned kind of the partnership between the two states, and in my career, I've noticed it has gotten better. What do you attribute that to? And Kim, maybe if you want to jump on that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of trust between all the teams that are involved from an economic development standpoint. Kim and I talk regularly, Tom and I talk regularly. Our teams today were meeting from the city of Covington and BNKY to talk about business attraction and how do we do that in a more partnership-centric way. So I think it's just building that trust. I keep saying I'm fairly new, but it's almost 7 years. So when I relocated 6 years ago, my biggest thing was, how do we sit down and have the conversation and work on projects together so that when we do get to a situation where a project may be moving from one jurisdiction to another, we can have that honest conversation in a safe space that we can discuss that and handle it in a form of partnership and friendship.
Yeah, I think success helps, right? We've had so much success, and as you start to see success, you want to be part of that team, and you understand that being part of that team means an innate trust that has to happen. And to Kimberly's point, we talk regularly. Lee and I talk regularly. Our teams do, but I think the state teams talk regularly. I was on that HQ2 project when we were looking at both sides of the river as a possibility for Amazon, which is so funny now when you think about what happened to that project. But that's where this red zone joint economic development district concept came into place, and it's been the trust, it's been the recruitment of British Airways, it's been the success of the Brent Spence, where we start to realize each side together is so much stronger when we're working as one actual region.
Absolutely. And is there a regional asset that Covington should leverage more? And I'll throw that to any of you if you have an idea of.
Honestly, I can't think of anything that they could access more. I mean, I think what we see not only in the city of Covington, but in Northern Kentucky and in Cincinnati, is just the need for more product available when it comes to real estate. So we need more industrial land, we need more office buildings. Office projects are still very active for us. Maybe not as much as they were 10 years ago, but it's definitely, as you can see, I mean, most of the office space in Northern Kentucky and specifically in Covington is filled up right now. So I mean, that just shows how attractive it is to be in Covington for an office project. So I would say, that's definitely a need we see, but I wouldn't say that the city's not leveraging everything. I mean, obviously they're investing in CCR and also in the 1NKY building, and then a lot of different other projects too, to make sure that we have those product available.
I think it's just continuing the promotion. I mean, you promote, and such a nice job of such an easy government to work with, the ability to have that, cool urban vibe, the ability to have kind of cut through any of the issues and to be so open and business friendly. The more that story gets out, the easier it is when we're having eyeballs here to make that success story.
Yeah. So, Tom, what about, when you're talking to a business leader or a potential business that's looking at Covington, if you had to name kind of the regional value proposition to someone who doesn't know the area, what is it?
Well, I would start with what's included in our manifesto. As I said before, chills went up my spine when Austin read that to us in the meeting, because it described Covington to a T. And what that is about are the values of this community, and that's really what we're selling. Is that vibe. We do incentives and that kind of thing as well, but our big differentiator in the market really is our location and that vibe, that environment that businesses, and I think, can I point to DBL and talk about that, Patrick and Mark? One of the reasons they wanted to come here, and this is what Bob Hoffer told me, was that they own their own building out in the suburbs, and they moved here because they knew they could attract and retain young lawyers. So they're looking at that pipeline down the future. And of course, our other tagline is, you buy Covington, we throw in Cincinnati for free. So.
Not a bad deal, right?
How's that for a value?
I haven't heard that one before. I haven't marketed using that one before. No, I think that absolutely you're spot on. And as we talk about the ability to sort of go out and sell on an international basis, you have to use Cincinnati for free as your starting point, right? Because no one knows where Covington is versus Mason versus Blue Ash, anywhere else. And so I think it is being able to provide all of those types of things that we talk about. So the businesses here, proximity to their customers, the incredibly low cost of living, comparatively speaking, but it's the amenities and the access and the cool factor and the things that you don't expect. And so we always say if we can get someone here on either side of the river and start to show off what we have, people are blown away. And I think you're such a great example of that surprise factor of I had no idea it was so livable and so cool to be.
It's funny. So I was just on vacation a couple weeks ago and ran into a couple that drives through Cincinnati and Covington every year to visit their daughter, but they've never stopped in. And I was like, you've got to stop in, because they said their favorite part of their drive from Massachusetts down to southern Indiana is when they're going back north, coming up, seeing Covington, seeing Cincinnati as you come up 71, 75. I'm like, you've got to make the stop. It's a must do. So I don't know, maybe I'll have two more residents that might move a little bit closer. We'll see. And Tom, you mentioned kind of employers. I want to touch on that a little bit. And, the three panelists up here, they all represent different markets. So lots of different employers are under your purview. Where do our employees come from for Covington, Boone, Kenton, Campbell County, Southwest Ohio? And what does it tell us about the real regional labor market?
Well, we have about 18,000 residents that leave the city of Covington every day to go to work. And they're going to work primarily in Kenton County, Boone County, and Hamilton County. So they're working within the region. We have another 17,000 that come to Covington every day from somewhere else. And they're primarily coming from those same counties. I was a little surprised to learn that we have about 500 every day that come in from Louisville, and about another 300 that come in every day from Lexington to come to work here. And about 3,500, I think, that both live and work in Covington. And I was really surprised at how low that number was. Now, that doesn't include the work from home folks. But I think that what that tells us is there's a tremendous opportunity out there for housing. And especially as this Brent Spence Bridge project gets underway, folks are going to find, I think, a shorter commute to be desirable. And hopefully that also means that companies are going to find that it would be great to locate where the bulk of their employees have a much shorter commute. So I think that's what that tells us. But it also tells us that we've got a region that's pretty easy to get around in. Now, people may not agree with that at 5 o'clock on the Cut in the Hill, but
Yeah, our average commute time for the region is 22 minutes, and it's only grown by 1 minute in the last 10 years. So, I mean, it is really easy for our people who are working in the greater Cincinnati region to get around, whether, they're coming further south or even again from Louisville or Lexington. So we definitely see people will travel for a good job and the right quality of place in terms of where they want to be, and that they have those amenities so that they step out the door and they can go get lunch or run and do a service while they're on a lunch break. So, but we definitely see that people will travel for the right type of job.
Yeah, and I would just say from our perspective, it is one labor market. You look at the 15-county MSA, there's a reason it's an MSA, it's an integrated labor market. One of the key selling points when we're talking to companies is you can live anywhere within those 15 counties, get around easily, and choose where you want to work and live. So perhaps you want to live in Covington and your job is someplace else, or vice versa, or in your world, hopefully both. But it's so easy, and our labor market is so indistinguishable. It's very difficult to say this is a Covington labor market versus a Northern Kentucky versus a Cincinnati, because we truly do function as one integrated market.
Yeah. So what do you think that tells us about our housing needs, both for Covington and as a region?
I think everyone would say we need more. I mean, I don't think anyone would say no thanks, we're good. I think it's the things like the connected transit systems that we've talked about, a little bit more of a car dependent region, but looking at the partnerships between Metro and Tank and how we're moving people, from where the residents and the housing are into where the jobs are. We know that we need more residential throughout the entire region, but we also need to make sure that residential is connected to where our job centers are.
the one thing I would add to that is that we need to be very conscientious about gentrification. And again, I'm talking from a micro scale. The Mayor's Housing Initiative addresses this, and that is, people talk about affordable housing. Well, all housing is affordable to someone, but we need to talk about the housing for our teachers, our first responders, the folks that work in these bars and restaurants that we all like to frequent, because we've seen on a very micro level what happens in an area where folks lived and worked before, and maybe they're in some of those lower wage jobs, and they get run out because of gentrification. That creates parking issues. It creates transportation issues. So I think remaining conscious of that we're not just talking about one particular income group when it comes to housing, but the broad range of what's needed.
Yeah, excellent. So where do you feel the river is a connector versus a divider? Is it with logistics? Is it with perception? Is it with talent? Is it incentives?
I think we all want to jump in this. Well, I don't know if it's because I'm not from here, but I don't see the river as a divider. When we look at, some people when I first started said, oh, you're going to have companies jumping back and forth. 1% of our total projects have actually moved within the 3-state area. I mean, that's the percentage we're looking at when we're talking about companies moving. And the reasons in those handful of times that companies have moved, it's because of a business case. It was not because they were like, oh, we really don't like it here and we'd rather be in this jurisdiction instead. It was because, hey, they had a better real estate product for us, or it made more sense to be closer to this customer, or, we were attracting the workforce from maybe a little more southern from here, or maybe even more northern. So I don't see it as a deterrent. I would say the biggest challenge that we do face, though, is on the incentive side. And Kim talked about, it's very difficult when you have a company that wants to locate here and they may be looking at Lexington as well. And we can say, well, we can offer you an incentive package in Lexington that's, is 100% of what the value that you can receive. But in Covington or somewhere else in northern Kentucky, it could be 60 to 70% because you can only count Kentucky employees. And it's the exact same thing in Ohio too. So they're getting less advantage when they're looking at that, and it does create, a competitive disadvantage for our region. And so, we're all very want to push through some sort of economic development zone so that we can incentivize those companies, and it doesn't matter where the employees are coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wholeheartedly agree with all of that. I think you layer onto the challenge that when we're recruiting companies on a national, international scale, they see a huge benefit of being able to be in a bi-state or tri-state region, that we can pull employees from one side to the other and it's seamless. So it's like you're taking all the benefit of why I want to be here and then penalizing me because I'm choosing to be here where I'm getting the benefit. So it is tricky. As I said, I see the river as a massive benefit. Outside of getting stuck on the bridge on those rare occasions when that happens, that can be challenging, but that's true no matter where you are. So I think giving us the ability to move goods, services, people, and also the beauty and the cool factor of it is a huge benefit.
Yeah, what they said. I want to I want to echo what Kimberly talked about. She and I both serve on the Kentucky Association for Economic Development Board. And one of the things, and sometimes they roll their eyes at me at those board meetings. Kimberly doesn't, she gets it. Kentucky is surrounded by 7 other states. All of them have their own economic development programs. And the 8th one is just a boot heel away, right, in Arkansas. That means that all of those border communities are operating at a similar disadvantage that we are too. Maybe Louisville a little bit less because they're the they're the 800-pound gorilla down there. But trying to get incentive reform at the state level could have a tremendous impact on us at the local level, and we've been pushing for that. KAED is talking about it strategically, so hopefully it's coming.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I do want to actually open it up to the audience for a few questions as well. If anyone in the audience has any questions, we can take a few of those. I've got plenty of additional questions, but
I don't have the answer.
That's not true.
We can pass.
I was going to say I get my fair share of eye rolls at the state level meetings in Ohio as well when I talk about this, so you are not alone.
There's a lot of talk about the bent sprints, and you guys mentioned mass transit. Is that in the conversation at all these days?
How so? You mean how we'll handle it once it's under construction, or just in general?
No, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Is there any type
So
of...
I actually am on the tank board, so I mean, I'm very close to it, and our focus has really changed over the past few years so that we are focusing more on the transit-dependent population. Instead of before, you used to have a lot of park and rides for people that might be in a professional setting that wanted to park somewhere and then ride into downtown. We've really shifted that model to try to make it more friendly for the transit-dependent population and not for people like me who have a car and who could drive in. However, it's hard. It's a really complex system, and there's a lot of need out there, and it costs money to operate, and it's not getting any cheaper. I mean, with gas and with labor rates and everything else going up, it's definitely going to be a challenge for our community to maintain that. So we've talked a lot about how can we diversify funding, what other funds can we look at to help so that we're, offsetting that cost. And, less than, Gina's not here, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's less than 10 or 15% actually come from the fare box. So we're going to need to find other ways to be able to still maintain that, because a lot of our companies really do depend on that. Now, I will say Metro, you can address Metro, but I think they have probably a more efficient system in place than Tank does at this time.
Well, and I think from a federal budget priority, right, any type of mass transportation is just challenging, right? We're talking on the Ohio side about, can you connect Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati through high-speed rail? And that's been talked about for so long, and it's just the budget realities are not there, right?
Question back here.
Yeah, we've talked a lot, or I've heard a lot about housing, and I agree, as I think we all would, specifically housing for lower income. But we all know that, in today's market, developers need some type of saleable credit to help them, put up a structure that is going to be below market. And I know that Kentucky Housing Corporation, I was on that board for a while, we used to, they still underwrite those. So that's one thing. Has there been any discussion about, and I know that's federal, but bringing that program back, or maybe more robust? And then the city in general, if you find something in a residential section, unless you can get that changed to multifamily, that's just going to be another residential house. So has there been some thoughts around maybe easing up those zonings? And then one other thought I had is, the city has a lot of vacant lots. If the person in the house next to that vacant lot was happening to sell it, it would be more attractive if you could combine those lots, tear down the house and put something up that's more accommodating to that size lot. So I was wondering if you guys had thought about making adjoining lots a little bit easier to combine. So just some thoughts.
Okay, there's a lot there. And I hope I don't screw this up, because what you're talking about is primarily an issue that Brandon Holmes, who's our Director of Neighborhood Services, is addressing. The mayor and his housing task force are working on a lot of these issues. The city does have a number of parcels that we own that are being marketed for infill housing development. And there are some programs out there that will help subsidize that to keep that housing affordable. I can't talk about the details of those because I don't know them. That's Brandon's area, and I don't want to say something incorrect there. What I can tell you is when we rewrote the zoning code in 2020, we created a code such that the vast majority of, and I believe it's something like 90% of our residential districts do allow for some type of housing other than just single family. So most of the districts will allow for a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex. Some allow for accessory dwelling units. Some allow for multifamily. So we probably have a more liberal zoning code than a lot of other communities when it comes to what types of housing can be built in our various neighborhoods. So I would check that out, look at the neighborhood development code, at all of the different districts where more than just single family detached is allowed.
Okay, another question down here.
So looking at the multiple bridges and the different arteries, and then there's a lot of wobbliness, right, with the 4th Street out for a while, and, Roebling, we're one barge away from, all that kind of stuff, and the restricted usage. There is, I think, a sense of the fragility of the Renaissance, right, and that, as you're talking about, not losing the cool. What are you looking at to encourage this community to be resilient in the undoubted turbulence that's going to be involved in the next couple of years?
Thought when Pat took the microphone away, I wasn't going to answer it. That's really a tough question, Fernando, because you're right. I mean, you've got the fragility, and we've seen what happened when there was a crash, right, on the I-75 bridge, and that was shut down, and we saw what an impact that had, certainly on this side of the river, and I think on the Cincinnati side as well. I think so. Having some experience with that has taught us things that we need to do. We need to be prepared for. The other resiliency that we're trying to build into things, if you look at the Covington Central Riverfront, we're trying to weave that back into the urban fabric and have it feel like it's just a continuation of Muttergattas, of Roebling Point, of Mainstrasse, while also planning for that resiliency. So assuring that there's going to be enough parking until we become less auto-dependent, assuring that there are going to be spaces where people are going to want to live, where people are going to want to work, and people are going to want to visit. So we've learned a lot of lessons from a lot of different neighborhoods in our community. And, I mean, I don't think we're any more or less vulnerable than the other communities out there.
I would also say encouraging our residents to continue to be better ambassadors, whether it's of the city or the region as a whole. I mean, we do tend to be pretty humble in our conversations. We spend an inordinate amount of dollars on marketing and drawing eyeballs to the region. You look at events like Blink, right, that cross the entire, downtown urban core on all sides. We're bringing 2 million visitors a year who will tell you it is the coolest thing they've ever seen. And we're like, oh yeah, it's Blink weekend. Shoot, that's a pain, right? So I think it's making sure that lean into the work that Cheryl does, that Gina does, that we're doing here to promote and draw pride into the region, because I think it becomes that ambassadorship that brings people who want to be here as well.
Pat, do we have
one more question? Time for one more? Last chance?
All right.
Okay.
I've got one kind of final question
Sure.
for our panel.
Go ahead,
so
Tom.
we'll leave them with. Sorry. So if treating us as one integrated regional economy, what's the single most important thing we should do differently over the next couple of years?
I think what I just said, lean in, right? Become a part of the work that we do, whether it's the work that Ready's doing, the work that BNKY is doing, the work that our chambers are doing. Lean into the work. This takes the entire region. Tom, you said earlier, these awards aren't my awards, these are the community's awards. We win accolades as states and as regions because of the work that you all do. So the more that you lean into what we're trying to do on a daily basis, the stronger and better we all are.
And I'm going to reiterate, finding product, available real estate. We need more industrial and office space. That's the hill I will die on.
I'm dying on that hill.
Excellent. Well, again, let's give our panelists a big round of applause.
Yes, thank you, panel. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to our sponsors today, St. Elizabeth Healthcare, the Corporex Companies, BNKY Growth Partnership, Family Nurturing Center, Mackey Advisors, DBL Law, A&E Audio, Video, and Event Services, and Crystal and O'Brien Photography. Also, I neglected to mention Diana Nicely, Erlanger council member and mayoral candidate in our audience today. Please join us Thursday, May 21st at Embassy Suites River Center, as we'll learn more about the Catalytic Development Fund's newly announced resource to help in the affordable housing shortage problem that we've touched upon today, affecting workforce. So we hope that you will join us. Thank you all for being here today. Hope you have a great beginning to your weekend, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.